Have you ever wondered why peace slips away so easily, even on days that should feel calm? You wake up wanting clarity, but the world pulls your mind in every direction. The Stoics believed happiness is not something you wait for, but something you train for. So today, let us explore how a disciplined mind can turn ordinary moments into strength. Will you walk with me a little further? As we step into the first chapter, imagine the quiet before dawn. The world still sleeps. You stand, awake, aware that life itself is already enough. The breath in your chest, the pulse beneath your skin, the light that will soon rise. That moment, before thought, before demand, is where gratitude begins. Not as a grand emotion, but as a steady awareness. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings this way. Surrounded by wars, illness, and betrayal, he still wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to breathe, to think, to love, to act." He did not write it to sound wise. He wrote it to survive. Gratitude was his anchor when everything else moved. Now imagine the opposite. A man who wakes and immediately counts what's missing, what he lacks, what he fears, what he's yet to win. His day begins in war with life itself. He chases satisfaction through what he does not have, and the more he gains, the more he feels deprived. This is how the untrained mind starves even in abundance. Seneca warned of this hunger when he said, "It is not the man who has little, but the man who always wants more, who is poor." The Stoics saw gratitude not as a mood, but as mastery, the ability to govern one's perception and to see clearly what is already present. Gratitude is clarity. It turns chaos into order. It reminds you that what you take for granted today was once something you prayed for. It trains the eye to notice what remains rather than what's been lost. Think of the small moments that slip by unnoticed, the water you drink, the strength in your limbs, the voice that calls your name, the roof that shields you from rain. These are not small things. They are the quiet architecture of peace. Yet most people look past them, distracted by what's next. A Stoic learns to stop, to look, to thank the present moment simply for being. There's a story told of a man who lost everything in a single season: his business, his home, his family's trust. He wandered the city aimlessly until one evening he found himself sitting by a fountain. Watching the waterfall, he realized it kept flowing no matter who watched. The world had not stopped for his misfortune, and in that realization came calm. He could begin again, not because fortune had returned, but because awareness had. Gratitude didn't erase his pain, it made space for strength. When you begin the day with gratitude, you anchor yourself in reality. You accept life as it is, not softer, not easier, but bearable, meaningful, alive. Gratitude does not blind you to hardship. It makes hardship survivable. It is not decoration, it is discipline. It is not softness, it is steel. And when practiced daily, it becomes your first victory before the world even speaks. From here, the mind learns its next lesson: to be strong not through control of life, but through control of itself. Moving into the second chapter, picture a soldier standing alone in a cold field before battle. The fog is thick, the air sharp with silence. He does not know what the day will bring, yet his armor is steady, his breathing calm. That soldier is not waiting for courage to appear. He has trained for it. The same is true for the mind. Strength of thought, like strength of body, is not born in comfort. It is built in discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. These words are not meant to decorate a page. They are instructions for survival. Now imagine your own mind as a restless field. Thoughts rush through it like wind: anger, fear, envy, pride. If you do not train it, it will turn against you. The Stoics believed that philosophy is not just reflection, it is exercise. It's the daily training of judgment, the conditioning of reason, the practice of restraint. You don't wait for calm to arrive, you prepare for it. You build it one deliberate thought at a time. There was a general in Rome who once said he feared peace more than war, because in peace, soldiers forgot how to fight. The same happens within us. When life feels easy, the mind grows soft. Then one unexpected blow, and it collapses. Seneca reminded us that fortune tests us to reveal our strength, not to destroy it. The mind that has trained in hardship welcomes the test. It says, "Here is the ground I've been preparing for." Training your mind does not mean silencing emotion. It means mastering it. Anger may visit, but you do not hand it the keys. Fear may whisper, but you do not let it lead. Epictetus taught his students to rehearse difficulties in thought before they arrived in life. He called it preparation for the inevitable. Before the day begins, say to yourself, "I may be ignored, I may be insulted, I may lose what I love. Yet none of this can touch who I am unless I allow it." These words build a fortress, thought by thought. Think of a time when someone tried to provoke you, expecting your anger, but you didn't react. You paused, you observed. Their power vanished instantly. That was training. The discipline to delay reaction, to measure words, to remain unmoved when others lose control, that is the mark of an inner warrior. The untrained mind collapses at insult. The trained mind absorbs it, studies it, and learns. Life will not stop throwing chaos your way. But if you train your perception, chaos becomes material, iron for the forge. Every reaction becomes practice, every trial a teacher. Train your mind daily. Reflect in the morning. Review at night. Challenge yourself with small discomforts so greater ones will not surprise you. Each time you regain control, you build quiet power. The warrior does not wait for peace to come. He becomes it. And from that stillness, the next lesson rises, the art of embracing discomfort before it arrives. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine walking barefoot on cold stone at dawn. The ground bites at your feet, the air cuts your skin, and every step demands a quiet kind of courage. You could turn back to warmth, but you don't. You stay. Because somewhere within, you know this: strength is born where comfort ends. Seneca once advised his students to set aside a few days when you live with little, eat coarse food, and ask, "Is this what I feared?" It wasn't punishment, it was liberation. He understood that the one who depends on luxury becomes a slave to it, but the one who can live simply lives freely. We live in an age of soft living. Our food arrives at a click, our rooms obey our voice. Our comfort is endless, yet our patience runs thin. The smallest delay angers us, a bit of cold unsettles us, and the slightest discomfort feels like crisis. We've mistaken ease for peace, but peace is not ease, it is endurance. The Stoics saw this clearly. They didn't seek suffering for its own sake. They sought strength through voluntary challenge. To test the spirit before the world does, to rehearse loss, so that when loss arrives, they remain unbroken. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the largest empire on earth, lived among gold and marble. Yet he wrote in his journal as a soldier in the dirt. He reminded himself daily that the body needs little: bread, water, sleep, and virtue. Everything beyond that was excess. He knew comfort dulls the mind. He chose simplicity to stay sharp. For him, discomfort was not deprivation, it was discipline. It was how he trained his will to remain steady amidst chaos. There's a man I once met who took cold walks each morning, no matter the weather. When asked why, he smiled and said, "Because one day life will throw a storm I didn't choose. I'd rather be ready." That is the Stoic spirit, training in small voluntary hardships so that involuntary ones do not crush you. Fasting for clarity, silence for patience, simplicity for strength. These are not rituals of suffering, they are rehearsals of freedom. When you choose to step into discomfort, you discover something extraordinary. Fear dissolves. Most fear is imagination, hunger, loss, rejection, pain. But when you meet them willingly, they lose their threat. You realize that hunger passes, cold fades, and rejection does not kill. You become unbreakable not because life grows gentle, but because you grow firm. So, practice it. Choose small difficulties. Sleep without luxury. Walk when you could ride. Eat less than you crave. Each act whispers the same truth. You are stronger than comfort, steadier than fear. Voluntary discomfort is not about pain. It is about power. It prepares the mind for every storm ahead. And from this strength, you will learn the next lesson: to find stillness in the only place peace truly exists, the present moment. Now imagine stepping into the 4th chapter, where the noise of the world begins to fade and the quiet within you starts to speak. The noise has faded, but the mind still stirs. After all the training, the hardest test begins: to remain here, now. The Stoics called this the discipline of perception, the ability to stay rooted in the moment, neither pulled by memory nor dragged by anticipation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He knew that peace is never hidden in the past or buried in the future. It lives here, in this breath, in this exact instant. Think of how easily the mind wanders. You replay old words that cannot be unsaid. You imagine outcomes that may never happen. You compare your life to others, building illusions from shadows. And all the while, the present, the only piece of time you truly own, slips away unnoticed. Seneca warned that we lose life not because it's short, but because we waste it. The man consumed by regret dies in the past. The man consumed by fear dies in the future. Only the one who stays present truly lives. I once met a craftsman who carved marble statues. His workshop was filled with fragments of unfinished work, faces half-formed, hands still trapped in stone. When I asked how he endured the slowness of his art, he smiled and said, "I touch only what's in front of me. The next strike will come when it comes." His words stayed with me. That is Stoic presence. He wasn't lost in what remained undone, nor anxious about perfection. He was anchored in the single strike of his chisel. That strike was enough. Presence is not the absence of thought. It is mastery of attention. It is seeing clearly what lies before you without judgment. When insulted, you feel the sting, but you pause before you respond. When anxious, you breathe, but you don't let fear write your story. Epictetus taught that events themselves hold no power. It is our interpretation that disturbs us, and our interpretations live in the past and future, not here. The present moment, stripped of distortion, is rarely unbearable. It is the mind that multiplies its pain. Modern life will tempt you to scatter your focus, to divide your mind among countless tasks, screens, and comparisons. But each division weakens you. The Stoic trains to return again and again to the now, to eat and only eat, to walk and only walk, to speak and only speak. These simple acts, when done with awareness, become sacred. So when your thoughts start running wild, call them back. Anchor them to what your hands are doing, what your breath is saying, what this single heartbeat is offering. You will find that life is never missing, only your attention is. The present moment does not ask for perfection, it asks for presence. And from this calm awareness, the next Stoic lesson emerges, to master not the moment itself, but the restless desires that pull you away from it. From here, imagine standing in a marketplace where every voice calls your name. One offers gold, another promises pleasure, another whispers praise, and yet each time you reach for one, another appears, louder, brighter, more urgent. This is the noise of desire. It never stops. It changes shape, but not hunger. The Stoics knew this sound well. They called it the chain of longing, the invisible force that makes men chase endlessly, believing happiness hides in the next possession, the next approval, the next escape. Seneca warned, "It is not the man who has little who is poor, but the man who always wants more." Desire is clever. It tells you that fulfillment is just ahead, that one more victory, one more comfort, one more glance of admiration will bring peace, but peace never comes that way. The moment desire is fed, it grows. The mind that obeys it becomes a servant to what it cannot keep. Marcus Aurelius, who had the world at his command, reminded himself that the body needs little: bread, water, shelter, virtue. All else is luxury, and luxury, when worshipped, becomes a chain. Think of the modern world. Desire is dressed beautifully now. It arrives in glowing screens, in promises of quick success, in the endless scroll of comparison. It tells you who to be, what to own, what to fear missing. But behind it all is the same old trap, the belief that peace lies outside yourself. Epictetus shattered that illusion. Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desires, but by eliminating them. He knew that every desire surrendered gives back a piece of your freedom. Once, there was a young scholar who asked his teacher how to become calm. The teacher poured a cup of water until it overflowed. "This," he said, "is your mind." Then he began to pour the water out slowly until only a little remained. "And this," he said, "is peace." The scholar finally understood. His endless wanting was drowning him. He didn't need to fill more, he needed to empty. To master desire does not mean rejecting joy or beauty. It means not needing them to exist. The Stoic does not run from pleasure, but he refuses to kneel before it. He eats with gratitude, not greed. He works with purpose, not obsession. He loves with devotion, not possession. When he gains, he is steady. When he loses, he remains the same, because his peace was never built on what could be taken. So the next time a craving pulls at you, pause. Ask, will this bring lasting peace, or just momentary relief? Most of life's noise fades when questioned this way. True wealth is not owning more, it is wanting less. And when you no longer serve desire, you begin to see obstacles not as losses, but as lessons in strength. At this stage, imagine walking along a narrow mountain path. The air is thin, the wind harsh, and every few steps, a new obstacle rises, a fallen branch, loose stone, sudden fog. You could stop, curse the climb, turn back in frustration. Or you could do what the Stoics taught, look closer, because the obstacle is not the end of the path, it is the path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words carry no poetry. They are instruction. The Stoics understood that the world does not conspire against you, it trains you. Every difficulty, every delay, every loss is the material from which strength is forged. Think of water flowing down a mountain. When it meets a rock, it doesn't stop. It adapts. It finds a way over, around, or through. That is how the Stoic mind must move, fluid, patient, determined. To complain is to remain still. To adapt is to progress. Life will throw you losses, betrayals, failures. You cannot choose them, but you can choose your response. Seneca reminded his students, fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave. Hardship does not destroy character, it reveals it. Once, during an ancient siege, a Roman commander lost his entire supply line. His men despaired. But instead of panic, he saw opportunity. He told them, "Now we will learn who we truly are." They fought on with renewed strength, fueled not by resources, but by resolve. The siege ended in victory. His wisdom wasn't strategy, it was perception. He turned deprivation into discipline. Most people see obstacles as punishment. The Stoic sees them as practice. When you fail, you're being taught humility. When someone insults you, you're given the chance to test patience. When a plan collapses, you're invited to rebuild, stronger, wiser, quieter. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful. He did not dread it. He prepared for it. That preparation turned pain into purpose. Modern life hides this truth. We want smooth roads, instant ease, uninterrupted comfort. Yet peace doesn't grow there. Peace grows in the places where you're tested and refuse to break. When something blocks your way, ask not why me, but what can this teach me? That question transforms frustration into wisdom. It turns suffering into movement. The obstacle in front of you is not there to stop you, it is there to sharpen you. Each trial is a hidden ally, each hardship a disguised teacher. Do not curse the weight, lift it. Do not flee the storm, walk through it. The same wind that bends weak branches shapes strong roots. What stands in your way can become your greatest strength, if you choose to see it that way. And once you learn to face adversity with calm, you are ready to confront the most certain truth of all, the fleeting nature of life itself. Entering the 7th chapter, imagine standing in a quiet room, lit only by morning light. Dust drifts in the air like time made visible. Each particle, once unseen, now glows for an instant before disappearing. That's how life is, brilliant, brief, and slipping through our hands, even as we hold it. The Stoics faced this truth without fear. They called it memento mori, remember that you must die. Not to darken the heart, but to awaken it. Because only by remembering the shortness of life do we begin to live it fully. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." For him, mortality wasn't tragedy, it was clarity. Death was the great equalizer, stripping away titles, wealth, and vanity. What remained was virtue, and the question of how one had lived. Seneca warned that life feels short, not because it truly is, but because we waste much of it. We drown in regret for what's behind us and anxiety for what lies ahead, until the present, the only thing we ever possess, is gone. I once spoke to an old sailor who had spent decades crossing oceans. His hands were calloused, his back bent, but his eyes were steady as the horizon. He told me, "The sea teaches you this. You never own the waves. You only ride them while they let you." That is the Stoic understanding of time. Life cannot be owned, only honored. We do not control its length, only its depth. Each sunrise is a loan, each breath a gift that must be repaid with awareness. When you remember that your time is limited, pettiness fades, the insult loses power, the argument no longer feels worth it. What once felt urgent becomes small. Marcus Aurelius said that remembering death should make us kind, patient, and free from pride. The one who lives with awareness of mortality no longer postpones love or virtue or truth. He acts now. He forgives now. He begins now. Modern life hides death behind distractions, but the Stoic faces it directly, not to despair, but to sharpen focus, to ask, if this were my final day, how would I live? When you live that way, each meal becomes sacred, each conversation meaningful, each sunset a masterpiece. Remembering the shortness of life is not about fearing its end. It's about fearing not to live before it ends. Every moment you waste in resentment or hesitation is a moment you will never meet again. So make your peace with impermanence. Let it remind you to act with urgency and love with honesty. Because once you accept death, life finally belongs to you. And from this truth of mortality, we turn inward to the fortress within that nothing, not even death itself, can destroy. Now imagine stepping into the 8th chapter, where the world grows loud again, but inside you there is silence. You've seen storms come and go. You've learned that comfort fades, desire deceives, and time slips quietly through your hands. Now you arrive at the heart of Stoic strength, the fortress within, the place no storm can breach, no insult can shake, no loss can destroy. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That is the blueprint for this inner stronghold. Freedom is not out there, it's in here. Picture your mind as a citadel of calm. Outside, the world roars. Inside, reason stands guard. If you guard the gates well, the world can roar outside and still not enter. But if you leave them open through anger, pride, envy, or fear, then every trouble finds its way in. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire under constant threat, yet he found peace because he ruled himself. He built his walls with reason, virtue, and reflection. Once during a long campaign, he wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He reminded himself daily that the enemy was never the world, it was his own reaction to it. That's what a fortress is. Not a hiding place, but a position of control. From within it, you engage life fully, but are never destroyed by it. The Stoic fortress is built brick by brick. The first brick is perception, seeing things as they are, not as emotion paints them. The second is discipline, responding to events with reason instead of impulse. The third is reflection, reviewing each day, repairing what's cracked, strengthening what's weak. Over time, these walls grow tall and firm. When insult comes, it hits stone and falls. When loss strikes, the echo fades, but the walls remain. There was once a philosopher who lost his home in a fire. When asked how he felt, he said, "Only the walls outside burned." That is the power of inner stability. The Stoic does not withdraw from life. He stands within it, unmoved by its heat. He speaks calmly amid anger, chooses clarity amid confusion, and keeps virtue as his shield. Modern life offers no fewer attacks, opinions, noise, judgment, chaos. But when your fortress is strong, you don't need to flee. You remain still. You act with intention. You choose your words, your pace, your peace. The fortress within is not isolation, it is freedom. When you have built it, nothing can truly touch you. And from this stillness, another truth emerges, the wisdom to choose not what feels good, but what makes you good. Advancing to the 9th chapter, picture a fork in the road, one path paved with pleasure, glittering, easy beneath the sun. The other is narrow, rocky, demanding. Most people rush toward the first, chasing what feels good in the moment. Few choose the second, where effort replaces ease, but meaning replaces emptiness. This is the crossroad of every human life, the choice between pleasure and virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In that simplicity lies power. The Stoics did not despise pleasure, but they refused to be ruled by it. Pleasure fades, virtue endures. Seneca once said that the pursuit of pleasure is like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. A man who lives by appetite is never full. He mistakes comfort for happiness, applause for worth, indulgence for freedom. But freedom cannot exist where craving commands. The Stoic sees clearly. Pleasure can be enjoyed but never obeyed. It is the seasoning of life, not its master. Imagine a craftsman shaping marble under the heat of the sun. Sweat stings his eyes, his arms ache. The work is slow, sometimes painful, yet when the statue finally stands, he feels something deeper than joy. He feels integrity. Pleasure asks, what feels good now? Virtue asks, what will feel right forever? The Stoic chooses the second question every time. Epictetus taught that every temptation is a test of your sovereignty. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To choose virtue over pleasure is to govern the empire within. When anger tempts you to lash out, justice whispers, "Be fair." When fear tells you to flee, courage answers, "Stand firm." When greed says, "Take more," temperance reminds, "Enough." Virtue is not theory, it is training. It demands sacrifice, but it gives back peace. Modern life disguises pleasure as progress. Endless entertainment, instant approval, constant distraction, they promise happiness but breed emptiness. The Stoic learns to pause before pleasure to ask, will this make me better or just more comfortable? Most of what the world celebrates softens the spirit. But the one who lives by virtue hardens into strength. Choosing virtue does not mean rejecting joy. It means finding joy in self-command. To wake knowing your actions align with your principles. To sleep without regret because your soul is clean. That is true pleasure, the kind that lasts. The easy road will always call, whispering comfort and praise. But the higher path, the Stoic path, leads to a quieter victory, the peace of knowing you stood firm when it mattered. And from that moral clarity flows the final and greatest practice of all, the return to gratitude, where the circle of peace completes itself. At this stage, imagine returning to the same place where your journey began. The noise of the world is still there, the same faces, the same demands, but something within you has changed. You no longer chase the rush of fortune or fear its retreat. You stand quieter now, seeing what was always there but rarely noticed. Gratitude, the first lesson, has come full circle, but this time it is not a reminder. It is mastery. It is no longer a practice you try to keep. It has become the way you see. Marcus Aurelius began and ended each day with gratitude, not because life was kind to him, but because he understood that gratitude is the root of peace. He wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." Those words hold the essence of Stoic strength. To take joy in what is given and to release what is taken. Gratitude is not blind optimism. It is clear vision, the ability to see life as a gift, even when it feels like a test. Think of a man who has lost much, his wealth, his home, perhaps even someone he loves. The untrained mind collapses under such weight, convinced it has been robbed. The Stoic looks at the same loss and says, "It was never mine to keep." He gives thanks for the time he had, for the lessons left behind, for the strength that suffering carved into his spirit. Seneca reminded us that no man is poor who can see what he already has. Gratitude transforms absence into abundance. It turns what remains into enough. There was once a soldier who survived a long and brutal campaign. When he finally returned home, his village was gone. He stood in silence where his house once stood, then knelt and pressed his hand into the earth. "Still," he said, "the ground is here. My body is here. My mind is free." That is Stoic gratitude, to give thanks not for what is perfect, but for what endures. Gratitude sharpens the eyes. You begin to notice the simplest things, the warmth of the sun, the breath in your chest, the chance to act with integrity one more day. And through that noticing, joy arises quietly, no longer dependent on circumstance. Gratitude is not passive acceptance. It is active awareness. It is the mind choosing to focus on what builds strength rather than what feeds resentment. When you practice it long enough, gratitude becomes your reflex, your armor, your peace. It shields you from envy, humbles pride, and steadies the soul through loss. Life will never run out of reasons to complain, but the Stoic refuses that path. He chooses to thank instead, to thank the moment, the trial, the lesson, the breath. Gratitude won't make life easy. It makes you unshakable. And that is freedom. Let's bring everything together. The Stoics never chased happiness. They trained for it through discipline, gratitude, and inner peace. You've seen how gratitude grounds you, how discomfort strengthens you, how presence restores calm, and how virtue protects the soul. These are not just ideas. They are choices made again and again until peace becomes your natural state. Life will always test you. The noise will return, people will provoke you, and plans will fall apart. But if you remember what you've practiced here, you'll meet those moments with steadiness. You won't react from emotion. You'll pause, breathe, and act with reason. That is strength. Not control over others, but mastery of yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Now you know how to choose them well. Every day gives you a chance to practice peace, to live with integrity, and to remain still when the world shakes. Let your calm be your power. Let your gratitude be your shield. If this message stayed with you, take a moment to subscribe and keep walking this path of quiet strength. And before you go, share a short comment below. Daily peace. Because that is what we train for, not perfection, but presence. Until next time, stay steady, stay kind, and keep choosing the peace that makes you unshakable.